Mm. We are live. Yeah,
Woo-hoo!
I'm back. I'm back. We're just gonna, of course, as we always do, wait for people to come into the room and yeah, do our thing. It has been, I think, a month since I've been back.
That's a hiatus for real.
For real, for real. A girl was tired. Tired, but like sometimes I go, because the teaching and it's sitting at this thing that is, it sucks all your, as you know.
What's really weird for me is I am I definitely need my own time. Like I need that like time to kind of alone time to just kind of like figure my stuff out. But I am
Mhm.
definitely an extrovert. I definitely get energy from being around other people to the point where because of this pandemic, like last night I was exhausted. And at 8 o'clock I started having some feedback sessions with singers and for
Mhm.
for the next 2 hours. But I was way more energized by the end of the 2 hours because I was like talking to
Yeah.
people, even though it was on a screen. Like it's the extrovert's dilemma this year is like, oh wow.
Yeah, that's a thing.
It is.
Yes. Hi, Jim. Good to see you. Jim, my friend from Minneapolis. Wonderful supporter of all of us, all the artists.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you're in New York, right, Melissa?
Yes, I am. And if you hear some like the siren you just heard, it's
Mhm.
because it has been a hot couple of days, so the window is
Ah, okay.
open.
You need to have that. Right, right. You need to have that. Did you share it? Did you share it to your page?
Oh no, I should
Yeah,
though.
you share it to your page.
I will do that
Yeah.
now.
Mm,
Very exciting stuff.
yes. Hey, Dave. How are you? The Combos crew is in the house. Yes, great to see you. How have you all been? It's what it feels like. Let's see. It's the end of May, and people are like, "No, I don't want May I don't want June to happen just yet." Yes. Hey, Kathy Kelly. Good to see you. Hey, Greg.
Hello, hello.
Good to see you. So great to see everybody. As you know how we do, we share to our page and get the love flow going. Well, I am going to introduce my lovely guest who I have been wanting to have on for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. And extended the invitation months ago, and you were like, "Yes, I want to come. I'm going to come on." And I was like, "Thank you." Hi, Heather. Yes, good to see you. Yeah, I had some time off. Yes. Oh, missed you too, Greg. Missed you too. Well, Melissa and I don't really know each other super well, but when I was working at the Met, yes, Kenny, thank you.
And cheers, Kenny.
Yes. Hey, Patrick, good evening. Hey, Lemmy, good evening. Good to see you. I'm so happy for all of the wonderful things that are happening for you, my friend. And I got my mask. So thank you. I forgot to send you a message about my singer's mask that Lemmy sent to me. Thank you. And Melissa, no, I was working at the Met last season.
Mm-hmm.
And every time I was coming into the administrative offices, I would see Melissa
We're
sitting at
like we should hang we should get together. And then it's like this season goes by, pandemic hits, and here we are.
and here we are. Exactly, exactly. And I just was like, this woman is so nice and just would always speak to me and always give me a smile. And it's like, we should know each other better, right?
Totally. And I came to see your performance of Serena, and I I just always, I don't know. I think I've always been kind of drawn to you. I just want to like, know more. I feel like we have a good vibe that just has not yet been able to like really do its thing in person. But
Absolutely. you know, we have it now. We have it
Yes.
now. Yeah. So I wanted to read your bio a little bit to the
Please,
people.
please.
Yes, Melissa Wegner is the executive director of the Metropolitan Opera National Council Auditions, where she is responsible for identifying and awarding the most promising operatic talent in the US, Canada, and Mexico. Having joined the artistic staff at the Met in 2011, she hears artists in stage and screen auditions at the Met and is responsible for casting the Met's new opera commissions workshop. Yay, we're going to talk about that for sure. She is a casting consultant for the upcoming Ricky Ian Gordon Lynn Nottage opera Intimate Apparel at Lincoln Center Theater, which is opening in the fall, right?
It's actually slated now to open in January.
Okay.
Yep.
Excellent. Yes. Recognized for her leadership in the industry, Miss Wegner was an official ambassador for Opera America's 50th anniversary in 2020, one of the 2019 Musical America Top 30 Professionals of the Year, and was the 2019 recipient of Maria Callas Prize of New York from Melos International. In addition to the districts, regionals, and national rounds of MONC, Miss Wegner has adjudicated for the Belvedere competition in South Africa and Moscow, and the SIA vocal competition, the McCaman voice competition, Nats, right?
Yeah, it's the Nats. It's like their semi-annual competition, I guess.
Okay. The Nats competition and the inaugural Nicola Martinucci competition in Italy. A faculty member at Ravinia, which I'm an alum. Ravinia,
Woo-hoo!
yes, Steens Music Institute. Ms. Wegner has also been visiting faculty for the Bard College Graduate Vocal Arts Program and is a frequent guest speaker and clinician at many of the country's top conservatories, universities, and summer festivals. She is an active member of the steering committee of Opera America's Performer Development Forum and has presented at the Nats Winter Workshop. Previously, Ms. Wegner worked at New York City Opera as a super titles associate and continued this work on a freelance basis with organizations including BAM, the Boston Symphony, Carnegie Hall, and Lincoln Center. As a super titles caller, operator, and we need to talk about that because some people don't even know what that is, you know?
Oh, yeah. We'll get there.
Yes, she has worked under the baton of Harry Bickett, William Christie, Valery Gergiev, James Levine, Fabio Luisi, Andres Nielsen, Yannick Netzen-Séguin, Jordi Saval, and Franz Welser-Möst, among others. Ms. Wegner is a member of families of FANA.
That's it.
Yep, WNY, which supports the orphanage in Colombia from which she was adopted. She is a trustee of the Foundation Board of SUNY Potsdam, an advisory board member of the Bard College Conservatory of Music, and on the team of advisors for Turn the Spotlight, a mentoring organization for exceptional women, people of color, and other equity-seeking groups. Ms. Wegner holds degrees from Bard College, the Manhattan School of Music, and the Crane School of Music at SUNY Potsdam. Please, Convo crew, welcome the Melissa Wegner to Kiki Conversations. Yes.
I am so happy to be here. Really and truly. I was like, I really want to go on your show. And now the day is here.
Yes, now the day is here. Do you have your drink?
Yeah, well, I have my, I'm always repping. So I've got my water bottle. I was going to make a mocktail and then I just ran out of time.
I got it. Woohoo. Well, we're going to cheers to you, Melissa, for coming. Yes. Cheers. Yes. Hi, Martin, my friend, from Scotland.
Ooh.
Yes, he sets his alarm and he comes on combos every single time we have the show. So.
That is fabulous.
Yes. So, Melissa, it is an honor to speak to you because as I was talking earlier today with another phenomenal badass woman of color in our industry, it is the energy and the all of the accolades that you've gotten and received that we need your energy in this space. So please tell us about how you got started, where you're from, and how you came to be at the Met, you know?
Sure. Oh man, we could go so many different directions with this. So feel free to kind of stop me and ask if I'm skipping over anything too much. But
Yes.
um, so I started out as a singer, and I studied at SUNY Potsdam's Korean School of Music, MSM, and Bard College. And I really got into singing um, through children's choir and through church choir as a little kid, and I played violin growing up as well,
Mm.
and did that all the way through. But I did a lot of things. I played a little bit of sports. I did student government. I just was like doing all the things all the time. And when it came time to decide on like a major, I just thought back about like who are the people that I want to spend so much time in my life with, because I you end up spending more time sometimes with the people that you work with than the people who are like sometimes part of your family. And especially, as a performer, you are on the road with people.
Yes.
They become your family in a different way. And I was just thinking about kind of the experiences that I had that just meant so much to me and the people I shared them with. And I was like, I'm going to do the music thing. So I applied to undergrad, and I wanted to double major no matter where I went, because I really am like very kind of split left brain, right brain.
Mm-hmm.
And so even though I wanted to major in singing, basically vocal performance, I knew that I wanted to kind of do something else as well. So all of the other schools I applied to, I was looking at a double major in journalism and vocal performance. And I ended up going to the Crane School, which is like a fabulous state school in way upstate northern New York, above the Adirondack Park, that has some really fantastic alumni like Renee Fleming and Stephanie Blythe and Maggie Lattimore, Dimitri Pitas. The list goes on and on.
Yes.
It's a gem. It is an absolute gem. And it was a fantastic decision to go there. And I'm a huge advocate of especially like public education, and state school was fantastic for me. I ended up going on to Manhattan School afterwards, so I know that conservatory life. And then after that, I was at Bard College for when Dawn Opshaw started the first vocal arts program there. I was in her inaugural class. So that was kind of the experience of a conservatory program within a bigger institution.
Right.
So I feel like I really got like the flavor of all those different experiences.
Which is important, I think, because I went straight through from Curtis straight into Maryland. And I think to have the experiences of the different schools, conservatory, university, I think the diversity is very important in every way.
Yeah. And you know what? It's just different strokes for different folks. And I really truly believe that you can get what you need from probably different people need different things. So it's our job to try and figure out what we need, or at least figure out what's not working. Sometimes that's the best place to start. Yeah. But then also to then do that research and figure out what's going to be the best fit for what you need next. So being kind of in my position now it's really helpful, I think, that I had those experiences with the different educational opportunities. And I think that was really helpful, just so that I can I've been able to get a good sense of that.
Yeah.
And so I ended up double majoring in music business and vocal performance in undergrad.
Wow.
And that really kind of set me on this path, I think, that has led me here. And I got both of my master's degrees in vocal performance. The MSM program and the Bard program are really, really different. So it sounds kind of weird, but it's one of those things where you explain it to a singer and they're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Anyone else is like, you have 2 master's degrees in the same thing. What's that all about?
No, it makes sense to me.
Exactly. I'm like, you have to understand. So, yeah. And I just had really formative experiences at both places. By the time I should probably back it up to when I started at Manhattan School, I realized, it's a 2-year master's program, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I'm not going to be able to pay my rent just because I'm going to have a master's degree that says I can sing in 2 years. So I immediately was like, and that was my first time living in New York City, and I loved it. I was like, I want to probably stay here. And I was like, so that means I'm going to have to figure out like how to do that. And I was like, let me see what I can do kind of on the music business side. And this was like literally September of like the fall that I started my master's. And this was back in the era of like, you go on Craigslist and you look for jobs. You remember this, you know? And so I'm on there and I'm looking at what's kind of available. And they basically were saying like, 1 to 2 years New York City experience preferred. And I was like, well, I'm here for 2 years for my master's, so I guess I better find some sort of part-time job working in the business in New York City. So I went to our gig office, that helped singers get job placement a little bit from MSM. And back then, again, dark ages, there were binders with papers, with dividers. You remember this life, right? So there was a section that was like, music related, but not performing. So basically like music business, music admin. And one of those was to work with a jazz composer, David Berger, who has his own big band, music publishing company, recording company. And he just needed someone to copy parts. And I don't mean like manuscript. I mean, literally at the Xerox machine, copy jazz charts, tape them together, put an invoice, and ship them off to whoever had ordered them. And he's a real Ellington specialist.
Uh-huh.
And so I started working with him, and it was right at that time. I started my master's in 2003. Mm-hmm. So it was really at that like dawn of the internet age, like changing small businesses. Mm-hmm. So we kind of like, I just had the confidence from my music business degree, not like I'd had a specific class and here's how to translate everything to the internet, but mm-hmm. I think it gave me confidence to just kind of help lead things into the next era. And so I ended up working with David for probably 8 years on and off while I like continued to do other things. But that experience was just, I mean, I didn't know who was in a big band when I started. I didn't know the instrumentation. I did nothing. I was a big jazz person, but in terms of like the real nitty gritty of that stuff. And so then, worked in that for a while, and it was really helpful. And then when I went and did my my next master's at Bard, between MSM and Bard, I kind of started an ensemble. Back at MSM, producing American song recitals. And we commissioned and I directed and produced 3 one-act operas that we did there. And I did that just because I felt like I wanted to have more performance experiences when I was a student there. So I wanted to kind of, the whole be the change you want to see in the world. I was like, yeah, if I can partner with some of the current students and kind of do that, that's great. So I had that great experience and then found out about the Bard program. And then I got back to kind of performing myself at Bard again after kind of that year of self-producing other people's things. And at Bard, I got to perform so much. It was unbelievable. And I mean, Dawn Upshaw is really, I think she was actually the first recording that my voice teacher in undergrad gave me to listen to. It was that Debussy recording. She's got like really short hair on the cover. And
yes.
And so I had always like really kind of looked up to her. So the idea of working with her was just unreal. And she is really beloved by people in the industry. So the people who we got to work with while I was there were some of the people who had always dreamed of working with, musicians and directors. And so I really just like had such an incredible experience. And I always was really interested in recital and new works and contemporary opera, chamber music, that sort of thing. And I didn't really get bit by the opera bug until I stopped pursuing singing myself.
Interesting. Yes.
Yeah, and I really, like, I remember one summer I was auditioning to cover. I ended up singing a compromario role and was covering the lead in Zemlinsky's Der Zwerg.
Mm-hmm.
And like for that, I was just like, well, I guess I'll go sing a Strauss song for this audition. And I got it because it, you know, it worked.
Mm-hmm.
But that's kind of, I just was so song oriented and so like working with living composers.
Mm-hmm.
That was really my jam, but it was definitely the right place for me to do all of that.
Yeah.
And then when I finished at Bard, I'd had a really, really, really great experience where we did a Composers in the Voice program between Carnegie Hall and the Bard program.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was paired up to work with a composer named David Bruce, who is absolutely fabulous.
Mm-hmm.
And the piece that he wrote for me and a baritone ended up being just really this amazing chamber piece. So I got to perform that at Carnegie, and then was invited to kind of take it on the road with them. And so that was fantastic, and things were going really well, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
But I also at the same time could kind of see that if I wanted to keep performing, that I was going to have to make some like real decisions about my lifestyle, about where I wanted to live, about what I wanted those next like 5 to 10 years to look like and be like.
Mm-hmm.
And when I zoomed out, especially at the time, I think that it's a little bit, I don't know if I want to say that. I think that there are more avenues for self-producing now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think it's a bit more common. My problem is I don't do a good job self-producing like my own work. I'm really good at producing other people's work. But if I'm producing my own projects, the thing that I neglect the most is like my own singing. So that's not always the best thing. And I knew that about myself. So I was like, I'm probably not going to be at my best if I'm self-producing my own things. I'm pretty good at working with other people and getting their things off the ground. And in the meantime, then I met through that Bard program, I met Corey Ellison.
Oh, Corey. Yes. We love Corey.
Absolutely. And Corey thought that I had the right kind of skill set to work in super titles. So she brought me in. There was like a gap year between Bard and when I started at City Opera, because that's when they were having the renovation.
Mm-hmm.
And their house was dark for a year,
Yes.
which is like kind of stuff of legends at this point.
Yes, yes.
So then I came in for the last 2 years that they were at Lincoln Center. Those the era of the black dot logo with George Steele and kind of that era. And that was when I fell in love with opera. That was the first time that I was sitting in opera rehearsals with really high level singers and musicians. And I got to just really experience the repetition of the music. And I got to be sitting at that artistic table with some people who are my mentors and now colleagues and friends, like Kevin Murphy and Jennifer Ringo and Corey herself, and just who were so generous and let me ask questions and not make me feel dumb.
Right, exactly.
The true generosity of their time and spirit. And that's when it hit me. I remember we were rehearsing Butterfly, and if you remember City Opera's like Butterfly production,
yes,
you know, it's kind of iconic. And just I remember being like, oh, opera.
And Butterfly, of all the things where you're just gutted, you know.
That's it. That's exactly it. So it was through that, kind of by the midway through my second year at City Opera, I could see the writing on the wall a little bit for the company. I knew that they were not going to be based at Lincoln Center the next year. And I had a fantastic church job through this whole time up in Westchester. And that those two jobs, the opera and my church job at that point were really like my anchor jobs. You know, for anyone who's been out there doing the hustle, like kind of figure out like what's going to pay my rent and my bills. And then like the rest is kind of like, maybe the student loans this month, maybe I need this other thing, or, you know, an extra tank of gas.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was like, my two anchor jobs are getting a little unsteady. And it was right then when Galetha Nichols was looking for a new associate for National Council. So Kevin put me in touch with her. And I really had never looked for like a full-time job before. That was something that I really loved being a freelancer. I was still kind of singing a little bit on some projects, but and kind of producing some things with other people, and just loving being in my 20s in New York City and doing that stuff. But yeah, I think I could kind of just read the room a little bit. And I was like, as soon as I met with Galetha, I was like, oh, this is a special job. This is something that like, this is a very special opportunity. And I would be very lucky to get to work with her, to get to work at the Met, and to get to work in a position that really kind of combines the business side and all of the singer experience as well.
Absolutely. That's amazing. You know, we oftentimes, when we join the competitions and when we're in the grind as a singer, we don't really realize that there are actually other human beings on the other side. People who have attempted the career, done the career. I don't want to say attempted, you know what I mean? Not you, but like been in it and decided, you know, been in the career and then said, you know what, I'm best served on the other side. We don't think about it until you're in that moment where you're having to make that decision. But that, and also that there are people who have to be there in order to make these things, the ship run, right?
Yeah.
In a way. And so now that I'm sort of kissing the middle part, you know, middle of my career and doing the other things, I'm understanding even more the intricacies of how the industry works and how things work when you're doing it. But before we get into I want to go back a little bit about to talk about you growing up, because you know, the idea that we just have these voices, I have these talents, and then, you know, somebody discovers you, a teacher or whatever, and then you start studying. But I'd like to talk about, like, did you always sing as a kid?
So my mom says that I like sang before I could talk. And this is part of the thing where being an adopted child has been really amazing. I mean, to me, it's like the best gift of my life. But one of the ways that it showed up with me in music is that my mom was she was really like observant about what were my talents going to be, because she knew that like they could very well be different than her own talents. And so she wanted to really just kind of stay alert to what would I kind of gravitate towards, what were the things. So it wasn't as much about fitting me into kind of a mold, you know, or kind of trying to have me follow some path that had worked for her, as much as really, I think, following my lead with it. And that just, from what I understand, has always been music related. So she got me in Suzuki violin when I was like just before I turned 3 years old. And, you know, I don't know, I guess I was just really musical. And so she put me in like church choirs and kids choirs and things. And that was just my jam. Yeah. It really was. I just loved it. You know, I really loved performing, but I also really loved, I think I like made sense of the world through music. You know, like when I say like music makes sense to me, like it's how I just made sense of the world around me, was all these lessons through music. And I'm kind of a naturally curious person. I always want to know. And there's so many pathways to learning different things through music, whether you're into history, whether you're into math, if you're into language, if you're into different cultures. There's so many entry points that I think I was just never bored.
Yeah.
You know, you just explore.
Absolutely. I mean, I think about how I got into music. Music was always playing in my home, but how I got into classical music, I would listen to it going to sleep at night, never thinking that I would ever like actually do it for a living. And then there was a teacher who recognized that I had a strong voice and was like, you need to think about taking this seriously. But I had so many other loves and passions, but when I started going into music, I played violin in the fourth grade and all this stuff, but it connected me to people, and it was where I felt my most free.
Totally.
Yeah, and so I totally understand. I understand that. And you said you were adopted, and talk a little. I want to talk a little bit about that, because I think that there's so many people who have had that experience, but we don't know, you know?
Yeah, you know what's interesting is I've had that in my bio since I was singing, and it has sparked a lot of interesting conversations through the years with people who are also adopted or who have adopted, and there's a lot of singers actually, and a lot of administrators or people who work within the opera industry that I think have adoption as part of their story of some level. So it's an interesting thing, and it's something I'm very proud of. I'm very proud to be Colombian, and it's like I said, it's been a great gift for me. I was adopted really as an infant, like 6 weeks old, from an orphanage called Fana, and it's an incredible organization. And my mom went through that process to adopt me, and then I have a sister and a brother who are also adopted, and everything that she learned through the adoption process, what she ended up doing was starting. We ended up kind of settling just outside of Buffalo, New York. We lived in Minnesota, central Pennsylvania, and then we've been in Buffalo since I was about 4 years old. So that's like the hometown area. And for anyone who was watching the district or region rounds announcements, you heard me say I'm coming to you from Orchard Park, New York. This is where I spent 11 months of the pandemic. Gladly, it was a fantastic place. We can get into that too. But my mom created support groups to help fundraise for the orphanage that we're from, and also to connect families that had adopted children from this orphanage, to give a sense of community, to give a sense of pride and culture, and to give back to the kids that were still there. So I grew up really with a nonprofit organization running out of our home. And I think that also is a huge thing that has connected me to a sense of service and a sense of not being afraid to fundraise.
And you have to have that.
That is it. But also truly, doing something that you really believe in, a sense of a greater good. And I think that is something that people in the arts also have, is a sense of maybe calling, or a sense of just being part of something that you can't even really explain it, but it's important and it's bigger than you. So being a part of that organization has been huge in my life, and I've been going back to Colombia to visit since my first trip was when I was 6, turning 7, or maybe 7. And it's been quite a few years since I've been back now, unfortunately. But I spent a summer there. I've worked at the orphanage that I'm from. I've gotten to take care of babies and little kids there. I've gotten to present babies to families for the first time. So for me, it's been just an incredible experience, and it's a part of my story that I'm very proud of. And I'm also really proud to be my mother's daughter, who has done all of these things to give back to the country that we're from, and to create a real sense of belonging among so many kids. I mean, she's a real hero. It's unbelievable.
Wow. Oh, Mama, we love you, and thank you. Thank you so much for spreading your light in the world. We need more people, and we have people, but we need to elevate them you know,
Absolutely.
and put them out so that they can get that love that they, of course, when, when you're doing the work, right, you're just doing the work. You're not even thinking about,
That's it.
the spotlight, right? It's up to us who are benefiting to uplift.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. It's I I I never really felt a strong calling for myself to have children. And as you saw, I have a 3-year-old daughter with my wife,
Yeah.
and it's so interesting that like family and cycles of just creating families,
Hmm.
whether it's your chosen family or your biological family or your adoptive family, however you create your family, it's really incredible.
Hmm.
I think over the pandemic, a lot of us have thought a lot about that.
Yeah.
Who
Well,
is
yeah.
my family?
Yeah, who's my family? Spending time with your family, and then not being able to spend time with your family, being
Mhm.
separate from them for safety reasons. And I think those of us in the arts who spend so much time together. Listen, you spend what, 9, 10 months in a theater, in a gigantic theater. There are people that were in your workplace who become your
Yeah.
family, and then you don't have them and you don't see them every day. You don't. Yeah, it's very interesting. It's tested a lot of us.
Whew. And yeah, it's that thing of like, how do you spend your time? How do you spend your energy? And all of that amounts to how you spend your life. And that's just like, whew, it's a lot.
It's a lot. It is a lot. It is a lot. Yeah, this time has tested so many, and we can talk about that, as well, like what it's been
Mhm.
like for you. We got some people showing love. Uh, y- yes,
Oh, thank
Kathy.
you.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, Sushel, great to see you too. Yes, Martin. I know the resume is so impressive, right? Yes. Hey, Matt. So good to see you. I thank you. I know. I'm back. I'm back. So you talk about service, Melissa, and I love when people in our art form talk about service, because and I always talk about that with younger singers with whom I mentor, or
Mhm.
I come across. I'm like, you have to be in service of the music, of the composer, of the
Mhm.
character that you're interpreting, and also of the audience who is spending their time to come
Absolutely.
to see you. And you really, and when did you recognize that part of what it is that you do? Because it is very important for a person in your position to understand the service part.
Yeah, and I think again coming back to like lessons of being an adopted child, I also had that feeling of I could have I could have kind of gone anywhere, right? First there was the decision for me to be placed for adoption. That was very important and I'm grateful for. But then there's also that thing of, I ended up going home to Edina, Minnesota, but I could have also gone to Australia or France or a different place in the U.S. or stayed in Colombia. So
Mhm.
I've always had this sense of I don't know what is the reason that I'm here, but I think I have to do the best I can with where I'm at.
Yes.
And so there's a little bit of that sense of like of kind of intrinsic purpose with that part of just do the best you can with the life that you have been given or that has been kind of presented to you and
Mhm.
make the most of those opportunities. And then as that, I think that is part of the reason why, a lot of us when we're trying to figure out should I go into the arts, people, there's a lot of talk about the gift, right?
Mhm.
If you've been given a gift, if this is a blessing that you've been given, that you need to share it. I did kind of feel like I should. Okay, the really objective part of me was like, there's a shelf life with singing. So if I want to do this, I got to do it now,
Yeah.
right? And 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 I really work on inertia. So if I'm in motion, I'm going to stay in motion. If I'm at rest, yes, I would like to stay at rest, please. uh, so so I really did feel like I had to just keep the momentum going with singing.
Mhm.
Um, but there have been definite parts of my life where I had to get plugged back into that sense of service with what we do. And
Mhm.
having my church job was amazing because I they asked me to teach the children's choir, and they said I needed to do that, lead the children's mass on guitar. At the time I played 3 chords, but I said yes. And let me tell you, I was humbled before the Lord every Sunday, as was that congregation, as they learned along with me how to
Yeah.
play the guitar. Uh, Electric acoustic, reverberating through a gorgeous church. But it was, this was in the midst of, it started when I was at Manhattan School, and I kept that church job all the way through Bard and
Mhm.
beyond. And up until I started my Met job, but it was really, really humbling when you're really like, I'm going to say at times overcoached,
Mhm.
and given so much really detailed information about, the vowel harmonization between E and A and O, and that you're thinking about these super micro concepts. And also then, you have all this style and history stuff going through, and you have to be and do all of these things, and you can really just get in your own way, right? And
Mhm.
then I'm standing up there in front of a microphone singing, "Here I am, Lord," with like 7-year-olds behind me strumming away. And you know what? Like, that also had the power of music. So I was like, I gotta just remember all of this, right? It's all part of the same thing.
It is.
So, I learned a few more chords, learned a few more hymns, but ooh, that first summer was special.
Listen, we don't hear those stories enough, you know? You don't hear like, oh yes, humble before the Lord.
That's it. I'm truly like, and this is part of the thing about, I think, what I do now is I have been that girl on a 6:37 train from Harlem, the Metro North, from Harlem
Mhm.
to Rye, New York, with a guitar on her back,
Mhm.
walking through the town, with some high boots on through the snow, because if I want that paycheck to really make sense, I can't take a taxi for any of this stuff. So it's like I've been there. I know that life. I know how meaningful it is. I know how much I actually really loved it.
Yes.
So there's that part of it, but I also know that it's hard. It's
Mhm.
hard. So on a year like this one, where all of a sudden people are like, "Go buy a video camera and a microphone and all of this," I'm like, I know what it takes to save up for a $175
Mhm.
microphone. I know that's not easy.
Mm-mm.
You
No,
know?
no. And I think it's important for, again, artists to hear the stories, hear the fact that you went through the journey and now you are, on the other side, getting to choose the next generation of artists coming from a place of understanding, coming from a place of having done it and knowing it, coming from a place of empathy and 1,000% support for our art form and the artists. And it's important that we know that we recognize that. And also I love the fact that you shared that you did so many jobs in order to support yourself while you were singing, because this false narrative that you go to school and you just you go to a young artists program and it's just like you step right into the thing without any kind of other things to support it. Well, now we know multiple streams of income, like you have to have, and there's no shame in
Mm-hmm.
having jobs, where there was through our time coming through, you couldn't really say that you had
Mm-hmm.
other interests, you had other passions, you had other things outside of just that racehorse mentality of singing. So it's important for us to hear you speak about it and your leadership position.
The first job I had after I got my degree from Manhattan School was, I was a barista at Starbucks at 181 in Fort Washington and Washington Heights. And I had on my Starbucks hat, my green apron, and I was taking out the trash at midnight and, getting back on the one train to go downtown. And that was what I did.
Yeah.
And that was a good job. you know?
Right, because Starbucks, you can have benefits or whatever. It's like,
Exactly. I was like, they have stock options. Let me try this.
there you go. And drink expensive ass coffee for free.
I never even drank Starbucks before then. So they have created a lifelong customer. I know there's mixed opinions, but their training program actually also really changed me because it is a great corporate onboarding program. And I was like, what? This is amazing. So yeah, I do love me some Starbucks now.
There you go. I know. Listen, it saves lives, in my opinion.
Amen.
Some days I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get you. No, but yeah, Jim. Yes, being a starving artist is not romantic. It sure isn't. Listen,
but it can be fun. I will say that.
Yes.
I'm not the starving part, but it's like those were also really just great times and great friends to get through that and living that life of like we had like one friend who had like an enclosed backyard in a building in East Harlem and this was not even the East Harlem that it is now. This is like 20 years ago, East Harlem. So, but it was like, that was our paradise. You know, that was our paradise. And you find those and nothing can take it away from you. Nothing. You just have to, when you know you are doing what you need to do, and it's like kind of like you're doing what's good for you, you have a sense of pride and dignity in that no one can take away from you. So it didn't matter like if I was in a Starbucks uniform and cleaning a toilet. It was like I was happy with my life, honestly. It was like, okay, I'm living in New York City and I actually love it. So this is what I got to do to get by right now.
That's it. And it's taking you to where you are. And again, like it's not about it's the destination. It's the final destination. It's get the journey part. It's a part of the journey and enjoying the part of the journey. And that's what you did. You're enjoying that part, never even knowing where you're gonna land. You don't know.
No. And that's the other thing is back to what you said about, we kind of used to really have blinders on. And if we had other interests, we weren't supposed to talk about them so much. I do want to make sure people realize, and I tell this to singers and like kind of academic programs that I speak with, that is not the truth anymore. Now, like, I think we really want to see who you are as, I think you have permission to like live and be your whole self. I don't think that the industry is looking to penalize anyone because, they have a side job, a side hustle, or even just like kind of a complementary path that they're walking on. It's like, that to me is not a deterrent. So speaking for myself, I never look at, a singer's resume and think like, well, there's not nearly enough on here. And why do they mention that they're a sales associate at blah, blah, blah? It's like, that to me is valid. Yes. It's part of who they are as a person and it's important.
It is important. Oh, Melissa, yes. We have to preach it. We have to preach it and we have to continue to say it because, I hear a lot from singers. Well, I don't have anything on my resume or if someone asks me why I have holes in my schedule or why I have holes in my years, what do I say? I say, you tell your truth. Nobody was hiring me, or I had to bust my ass. I had to grind. I had to work because I had to pay my bills. I had to work on my voice. And that's why I'm here now singing for you in my present state. Like, tell your truth. That is your story.
And even if it was a tough time, it's important to learn how to speak about it so that you aren't necessarily kind of having to go into an overly vulnerable place in that moment. When you're talking to someone, let's say feedback after an audition, or like a lot of young artist programs, for instance, have almost like an interview or actually an interview. You do have to learn how to talk about that stuff, just acknowledging your truth, your life, and without shame and without really making apologies. I think if you needed to leave school to be caretaker for your family, or if you needed to leave school because you needed to work because tuition was too much, that's your truth. And you just have to be able to figure out, how do I say this without going to a place that really like kind of gets me out of my place of power in this moment. So some people, you do have to rehearse it. You do have to like say that a little bit, kind of practice those lines. And like, you know, you've been doing the show, you're a journalist in your own right at this point, but you know, you have done your press, I'm sure, in the years, and we get used to kind of repeating our stories.
Yes,
absolutely.
absolutely.
And so you get used to kind of speaking about it honestly, but without going to a place where it's just too hard to talk about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And when you feel yourself getting there, you have to know how to just let it just massage it on down. And gather yourself a little bit, you know. And even sometimes if you do, even in this situation with this show, when I've been like emotional, you know, whatever was going on, or someone moved me and touched me so much, I'm like, God, I can't fall apart on this thing, you know. But it is a part of it. But yeah, it is a part, the rehearsal part, right? What you say, and but not being fake, you know, being real, but rehearsing what you need to do. Like you said, not giving away your power is so important. Even in auditions, I've been on this thing now telling singers, like, that is your 10 minutes. You own that 10 minutes. It's not the panels. It's not, you know, and it's taking me a long time to get there even for myself, you know. No, I wish someone would have told me those are your 10 minutes. You do what you need to do. If you know, I always tell people, if you have 5 things on your list, if you do 3, if you do 2, bravo. Like, you know, but again, your power as an artist, you know.
Absolutely.
Think about how you when you give feedback to people, or they ask you for advice, like, how do you support artists in that way, and talking to them about power?
Whew, that is a huge topic. It's something that's really important to me, and you've judged with us now, and you've seen like our guidelines. That for me, there's a little bit of a baseline of, we as an industry have to get some baselines of how to just respect the dignity of singers. I love the fact that our industry is based on tradition. It's something really special about the fact that, you know, we can sing right now an aria that might have that has been sung for hundreds of years. But you think about that legacy and the fact that, you know, probably doesn't sound exactly the same, even though we have the sense of like style being passed down. But I would bet that we would do those composers proud more often than not, right? So there's a real sense of legacy, of tradition, that I do value, and I think a lot of people who are in classical music truly value. There's also that in translating those traditions, we are coming from a real like power dynamic that has allowed the receiver of the information, the student, the young artist, the whoever is kind of being instructed. We've had a history of people being really brutal. And I'm thinking about, you know, the violin teacher who berates you for having your nails too long and cuts them till they bleed. I'm thinking about, you know, the piano teacher who might have smacked your hands with a ruler. It's not just about voice teaching. I'm talking about like this is kind of a practice, but also I think that is a practice that has happened in just educating people in general. There was I know, you don't, you're going to learn the way I'm going to teach you.
Right.
And so I think it's important that we really that everyone stays open to what they can learn from the process, the teacher and the student. Yes. And in giving that feedback, that the singer has to remember that they have a lot of power in the situation. They really do. Just by entering into that conversation, they have the power to receive the information or not. They have the power to take that back, try it out, and say that didn't work for me. They have the power to try it on and think that really did work for me. they also have the ability to, and this is kind of the next level of things that I'm hoping we can get into in the next couple of years. I hope that we can help, and let's speak about singers specifically in this case. I hope we can get to a point where singers feel empowered to mid conversation say, that's not so helpful for me to go down that path. Do you mind if we talk about a different area of things? That's really hard.
Oh yes.
There are very I understand that is a huge ask. That's a huge leap. I'm hoping that's where we can get. I really hope we can get to that point. We've done a lot of work to try and kind of change the perspective of the people giving feedback, so that they just have a different mindset about how to say things so they're received best. I personally don't think it's so helpful to just run through the list of everything you think that person did wrong. Some of it's really helpful. I know that we just have colleagues that have such incredible wealth of knowledge in terms of language, diction, musical. I mean, just it's phenomenal. And it is through those details that we are able to achieve and at least strive for real excellence. So please don't think that I'm saying we shouldn't do that. But also, when we're imparting that, especially in, our competition setting, you've heard someone for 8 minutes, maybe 8 to 10 minutes. So we have to build up as much as we are sharing some of the things that need to be worked on.
Absolutely. You touched on a lot of things. You talked about the histrionics, the history of how we train artists. Particularly, people say, "Oh, you singers or you instrumentalists, dance is worse." It's always like, who's the victimhood? It's like a competition, of who is the most abused, and also the humanity of how we are supporting the next generation, how we are giving feedback, and I was really impressed by the people that you invited, and I was rather surprised when I got the invitation to come, and judge. I felt honored, having had a couple years ago been in the finals. There's a couple, a few, but to be there, and then the seeing the other competitions, the districts and the regionals and all the judges that you guys invited, I was like, well, damn it, good for them. I was just like, yes, that is what we need to do, because I've been on the other side, and I've not that I had a lot of abuse, or whatever. I'm not saying that, but there could have been things said and done, or there could have been people who talked to me, who wanted to just talk to me and say, hey, and give me the information instead of not saying anything at all, or how you receive the information. And so I thought there's a lot of humanity in how we are giving information, particularly in this very sensitive time that we're all in, and the fact that the kids were singing to this thing, and how do you I would love to ask you what your particular tastes in artists are, necessarily what you respond to, and also how is it that you judge that a competition in the time of COVID?
Oh man, there's a bunch of things to unpack there. So for this season, I really, with the auditions, as pretty much as soon as the pandemic hit, it was right after last year's grand finals. And I instantly just was like, we're not going to have a season next year. I just kind of pretty quickly put that together. And I was like, I have to think about an alternative, because what our organization does is it provides money and support and opportunity to singers. And so what do singers need during the pandemic? They need the competition, and the fact that we have an incredible network of volunteers around North America who I was pretty sure were going to be rallying around us, which they did incredibly. They love and believe in young singers and opera. So they wanted to do this. I just needed to figure out, how can we do this in a way that is as fair, as equitable, as accessible as we could make it, while also knowing that, you know, we're not able to fully correct the inequalities of our industry by having a video vocal competition.
Right.
So, you know, I get flack, you know, I got flack throughout, like, how could you have singers do this? How could you? But I was like, how could we not? How could we not? How could we? And, you know, the response was overwhelming this year, of the singers who maybe didn't advance, but just said, I really needed to work towards something, and thank you. It was great for colleagues, for us to be able to get together and talk about singing and singers, and to connect in that way. I think it was really great for our volunteers to feel connected to the organization still, and to the singers, and to see how much of an impact their fundraising had. And start to finish, we awarded over $430,000 directly to singers in prize money.
Wow.
That's district through the national. Over $430,000 right to singers.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah.
In a time where nobody was making money.
Right.
Particularly the people who were, you know, were trying to work their way into the system. Bravo to you guys.
And really a huge congratulations to those volunteers. They do so much of the fundraising, and our tireless national volunteer, Camille Labar, whom I know you know. Really, the national award donors, the fact that they continued on with this higher level, giving level, even during a pandemic year, is incredible. And last year, Lizette Orpeza gave us a $25,000 gift, which enabled us to bring our winner and finalist prizes up to $20,000 and $10,000. And that was huge. I mean, it is huge, but the fact that it inspired our donors to continue at that level, even during a pandemic, unbelievable.
Unbelievable. The generosity and the support, that needs to be highlighted more often. We need to hear more stories like that. And when I saw that Lizette did that, I said, there you go. You better go and just pay it forward.
That's it. You know, and we all can pay it forward in different ways. And she gives of her time incredibly. Not just, you know, it's more than writing a check. Her commitment to singers, I think, is just amazing. Amazing. And her dedication to the industry and all of that, but also so many of our alums and so many people who have just participated in the program at any level. And what I also love is we've got a lot of volunteers who have also participated in the program. You know, like people who formerly auditioned and then now are running a district. I love that.
I didn't even know. Of course, I wouldn't know anything about that, but that is fantastic. Wow. See, this is the community. This is the network. This is the thing that we have to know about and continue to support and uplift. You know,
absolutely. And that's the thing. And I will kind of put a call out there right now that if there are people who we've got districts in 39 districts and 12 regions throughout the US, Canada, and Mexico. So if you are someone who's an avid opera supporter, if you're someone who maybe was a singer and wants to stay really connected to that, get in touch with us. We have districts in Grand Forks, North Dakota, and Pocatello, Idaho. We have them in, you know, Chicago and Detroit and some of the bigger cities. But it's a great way to stay involved with with young singers, with supporting opera in your community. So I would love to get more active volunteers. We have an incredible base already, but of course, I'm always looking to grow that, and especially with people of color. we're not talking about something where you're expected to donate hundreds of dollars a year. You can donate your time and be of great value, and have a real voice in your opera community through this volunteer program. So that is something where I would love to see some expansion. Because I think we have done, if you look at our winners, finalists, semifinalists over the years, we have a proud legacy of highlighting a lot of singers of color. You know, back to Grace Bumbry in 1958, and the year that we first started in 54, Martina Arroyo was. We kind of grew out of the Auditions of the Air, which was a radio competition. So she was an Auditions of the Air winner.
Yeah.
But she like kind of straddles the fence with us. So
of course.
But really from all the way through, George Shirley, Jesse Norman, it goes on and on, all the way up to, you know, this year. And it doesn't have to be all about a singer's identity. What I think is special about this is, and I mean, you know, racial or ethnic identity, what I think is special about it is that we have created a program that does allow great talent to rise to the top no matter who you are.
Right. Absolutely.
So that's something that I feel great about, and really at all levels of the competition.
Yeah, I was okay, but there's some people saying hello. Hi, Latanya. I haven't talked to you in ages.
Latanya!
Hey. Yes, and Jim, thank you. Yes. Oh, Dean William has a question. Provide information to sponsors who can help application fees for singers. I guess that's sort of about what we were talking about, you know, at that level.
Absolutely. And you know, this last year was the first year that we actually had application fees come to the Met because of the way that we kind of organized the auditions. We really centralized a process that's usually decentralized. Our application fee is just $30, and that includes pianists at the audition, and also, you know, feedback with 3 judges. You're guaranteed an audition. It's not some sort of like even this year, all of the qualifying auditions, I listened to over 800 of them myself. You know, none of those people were charged any fees. But traditionally at those districts and regions, if there has been a singer who would love to apply and can't, they'll find some sponsorship for that $30 fee.
Yeah, that's what I figure, you know, $30 is like a steal compared to this lot of the applications to other competitions in schools and, you know, all the things. So yeah, if we, you know, we should get some kind of consortium together of people who want to be involved, but particularly the finalists and the winners of the past, to see, you know, because even people who've come through the semifinals have gone on to have, you know,
incredible careers.
And it doesn't really matter. Listen, while I did not win my year and I was devastated, I thought my life was over, I wouldn't have had a Met debut had I had won, because I wouldn't have gone back to audition for more money, you know, because I needed more money to go to an audition. And I went back to sing, and then they invited me to do a house audition, and they gave me a cover contract, and I got to go on. So the blessing for me was not to win.
Totally.
You know, because a year and a half later, I was singing on the stage of the Met in a title role. So like we have to.
So you did like an education fund audition. Is that what you did?
And Gay Letha and invited me back to come, and whoever was the administrator, Jonathan Friend or whatever, came back, invited me to come back and do a house audition a few months later after the education fund audition, and they gave me a contract. So, you know, but you know, I'm not sure that's my story is not is probably common. It's just that we just don't know, you know. And
right.
So I think it, you know, maybe more of us would get involved and see how we can support, you know. We
started a little fund a couple years back. Our dear Eric Owens started an alumni alliance fund. So I am hoping that that's something that we can get off the ground even further in the next couple of years, once we're kind of back on steadier ground.
Yes, exactly. Well, let some of us know, you know.
Absolutely.
A lot of us. So I want to talk about, well, first I want to touch on the idea that I was so impressed by the level of diversity of people who came to audition for the National Council. And I don't think that that's something that's happened often, but I think because of the time that we were in, it leveled the playing field where people were like, I'm going to go sing for the Met. I'm going to go and do the thing. And of course, in the finals, I was like, oh, wow, this is, I don't think we would have had a finals that looked like that in a different time. But so I was just impressed with so many of the singers who were like, yeah, I'm just gonna go out there and sing. But I also would love to for you to talk about what you learned in this time and what you think you're going to take into the live part.
Yeah, for next season, we will keep the qualifying round. This was the first time we did that. And this was just a pre-recorded video audition. I kept the requirements really as open as possible so that we could have the most people apply if they wanted to. You could sing with a piano track. You could sing with a singer if that was COVID compliant in your area. You could sing with a digital piano track. And it was just, I only asked for one aria. I said 1 to 2 arias, because I know some people are like, I'm going to pick the wrong aria. So I was like, 1 to 2 arias. But one was fine. Some people submitted 1, and that was great. And we did that as a pre-screening system. So I created like a kind of like a rubric, basically, because this is the first time we've done this. The district round has always been just those live auditions have been the first round. So we actually are pretty open with our qualifications, at least in the last couple of decades. You don't have to have a college degree in music. You didn't have to have a recommendation letter. I know that was like way in the past, but you didn't have to submit anything. You could pay your $30 and show up for the district round. But with the real tech barrier in front of us, I was like, I knew that was just going to be a huge process. And I didn't want the people who ended up qualifying for the districts were people that I could imagine. And of course, I'll preface this with, I'm sure I did not get it completely right. I know that there were probably wonderful singers who did not qualify. I totally, let me just preface it with that. But all of the people who are in the districts are people who, on their best day, I could imagine them getting an award of some kind. Because I just felt like in a year of COVID, like that's important, that everyone in there has a fighting shot.
Yeah. Amen.
So because, I was meeting with the volunteers yesterday, and I just said, we have to remember that things are, thank God, getting better in terms of pandemic, but we are still in the middle of it.
Yeah.
We're not necessarily at the end of it. So I think this next year is going to be a lot of, I think there'll be more activities. Vaccinations are a game changer. And so, yes, I think a lot more things are going to be possible, but we're not going to just revert back to everything that was possible before. Right. So with that in mind, and with the fact that if we're able to have live auditions, which I think we're planning for, then that involves travel. That involves time and a financial commitment. I do love the fact that we have so many locations around the country that, they are probably more accessible than many other, but it's not the same as being able to do this from your kitchen.
Singing arias in your kitchen. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
I would say, honestly, Karen, at the district rounds, it was like about 90% of people competed from their home.
Wow.
Whether that was a dorm room or a studio apartment or a shared apartment in Washington Heights or a parent's living room. And that was fine. I mean, you judge it. You don't really sit there and think about like, well, that was a nicer kitchen, so they're going to move forward. Like, it's the least thing in your mind.
It is. There were 2 singers who I thought but they got one got an encouragement award. The other one, I had wrote his name down. I was like, I'm gonna look out for this. They were on a patio in their backyard, and they
Yeah.
sang their little tails off, and I was like, yes, I don't give a shit that there's like outside singing. Like, good for them.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that was the thing. That was the spirit of this year, was like, just do it.
Just do it. Just do it. That's what we need. We need to take that and every part of what we've learned in this year is just do it. Just get out there and do it.
So, in the next month and a half, 2 months, we'll be coming up with the guidelines for next year. But I do intend to keep the qualifying round, just because, again, everyone needs to be careful of their resources. So I think having a smaller pool of people in the districts that are really, oh my gosh, that comment, Jim, hilarious.
I had to put that down. I was not judging people's kitchens either. No, I was not. I was listening.
Although, I have to say, like, having so much HGTV and like Discovery Plus, like, I feel like I could judge the kitchens, but
Yes, part of the learning of COVID, right?
But yeah, and that's the thing. So that's why we're going to keep the qualifying. It's just there are. I just want people to spend their resources wisely. So I think that just kind of helps focus that a little bit.
Absolutely.
Time, money, voice, etc.
All of the things. And will you think that we would keep it for the audience to see, for the on the virtual?
I have wanted to have the semifinals live streamed for a very long time. Mm-hmm. I'm hoping that because we really had great response this year, that we'll be able to do that from the Met next year. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I don't know that at the region level that's something that we'll be able to coordinate.
Absolutely.
But we'll see. I'm starting to have some meetings this next month with all of those districts and regions to make sure that we are able to serve their needs and their communities and their donors. And also, that's the trick of this competition is it's huge. It's huge, and it operates differently. We're talking about vaccine requirements. Will there be a vaccine requirement? I don't know, but one of my volunteers was like, well, our state has a ban against vaccine mandates. So it's a lot.
It's a lot.
There's so many details like that are just like, oh, okay, great. So that's why I just keep going back to my volunteers being like, you tell me how it's working in your community and let me try and figure out some sort of overarching plan.
Absolutely. And listen, so many people are live streaming from their churches, live streaming from the opera companies, from the symphonies. There is a way, there's a solution around all of this. Really is. And although I would be a little bit nervous about regional streaming because it still is early, when you get to the semis, then it's like, okay, you got to get in the business, right? You're in the thing, doing the thing. It's like regionals. But again, anything's possible,
Well, and also, I learned from Gaylitha, who was very fiercely protective of singers. Mm-hmm. She did not want them to be exposed, exposed kind of too early or prematurely, or because it is such a important time, this development. Our competition is from the age of 20 to 30, which is, that's it. That is the development time for so many people, right? And so, that being said, Karen, from when you and I were studying, the next generation has a totally different expectation of privacy and process. They're willing to share more of their process than I think we ever were told that we should.
Yes, ma'am. I'm like, why would you put that up there? What are you doing? But they're like, they have fans and friends and they want to share. So yes, it is a very different.
So, that being said, like, I think we can advise on, you know, maybe when to pull that back a little bit. But we do have to remember they have a different not everyone, you
Mm-hmm.
know, but there is a little bit of a different sense of what's okay to live out there on the internet for a little bit.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's different. I've had to, hold my tongue sometimes with some things, and I'm like, there, it's not the same. It's not the same. And have empathy and understanding that a part of the career is also the social media. A part of the career
Oh
is
yeah.
all of those things, and that's
Yep.
different from when I was coming through. So I have to have that realization as I am guiding people along. Yeah. So I mean, we could continue to talk. It's been an hour and 20 minutes, and it's just been fantastic to talk to you, Melissa, and to like get to know you better and to hear your passion for this art form, your passion for the future, and to hear your story, because we just don't. And that's what I love about this platform, is that people
Mm-hmm.
come on and they just share, and then these videos, you don't know where they wind up, and people listen,
That's it.
right, and they watch, and they just get to know you and have, in a different way. And that really is why I built this platform, was for people to come on and be seen in a different way. So I just want to know how we can support you,
Oh,
in this, in what you're doing, because I am so proud. I'm so proud of you. I'm so excited for you, because this is just a part of your journey. I mean, you are gonna be wherever you want to be, right?
well, thank you.
Yeah.
That's a fantastic question. And, you know, I think there's a lot of different things. I think I probably will be calling on, first of all, I should mention the competition has now been renamed as the Lafont competition, the Metropolitan Opera Lafont competition, because of a very generous gift. So we have renamed after the Lafont family, Eric and Dominique Lafont, a gift given by their sons. Their father passed away this last year, and to honor him and their mother, who's very much still involved with the Met and with the auditions, they gave a beautiful gift. So we are honored to have their family name. So you will hear and see a bit of that kind of rename, rebrand coming out this summer of
Mhm.
Lafont competition. The mission is the same. So just so you know, you as an alum know, and for
Mhm.
singers out there who are looking to apply, this isn't a sort of a brand new competition. We still have our volunteer system. We still have our districts and regions. We have a beautiful name attached to it.
Mhm.
So that's one thing just to have a heads up on. But what I would love to do is have a different level of engagement of our incredibly talented alumni, whether they are
Mhm.
fantastic performers like you, or if they have gone into being phenomenal teachers in an academic realm. Um, I would love to be able to continue to highlight those singers who have gotten to like the semis and above from like the most recent,
Mhm.
5-7 years, who really, um, I'd love to just be able to highlight their path a little bit more.
Mhm.
Um, and then, like I said, I would love to have more people involved in our volunteer system,
Mhm.
and just kind of see the way um, that we can work together to support singers, and to support opera in our communities.
Mhm.
That to me is huge. And one of the other things is, I love hearing ideas. I love hearing feedback from people. I can't always I don't always I'm not always in the right place to actually like take action on everything that I would love to,
Mhm.
unfortunately, because
Mhm.
our program is run by two people.
You and Brad, right?
Yeah, me and Brady, and this year we
Brady.
had
Brady.
Veronica with us as well.
Yes, we have to shout them out. Yeah.
Thank God. And again, we have some incredible volunteers at the national level. We have these phenomenal volunteers. We really couldn't do this without the volunteers. But from a Met perspective, like what we're able to do at the national level, there's two of us. And we administer, we adjudicate, we plan, we interface. Um, so I need to spend some time thinking about, how do we change this so we can just continue to be more engaged,
Mm-hmm.
you know, with everyone. But it is something that has worked well for a long time. So there's also that element of like, I want to keep things going well that are going well.
Absolutely. Yeah, things that again, it's our industry, right? Things that historically are what it is because it's opera and because it's a competition, and also moving forward with all of the new things we've learned in the time, and because opera in the 21st century, how do we continue the traditions and train in the 21st century with a very old art form in that way, and there's so many questions, but you have to come back.
I would love
Again.
to.
Yes, come back again when we are up and running in the next competition year to get like all the excitement around it, and
Absolutely.
and the support, and there's so many people, Latanya and like other people and other artists who didn't make it through regionals, who would love to support you and you and the organization in any way that we can, because again, I really do believe that we are a village, we are connected, a community in a way, supporting singers and training singers and artists, not just singers, we're training artists, and
that's the thing, is like we really don't have so much overhead usually. When you donate to us, we really get so much of that money directly to singers.
Mm-hmm.
When you're donating to this Kansas City district, some of it is, sure, some of it might be going to, depending on how you allot it, some of it might be going to the hall, the piano, the pianist programs. But this is such a small amount of overhead where the majority of it is literally just being turned right around into prize money to support singers.
Wow.
So I really believe in it as someone who came up through the singer ranks. It's an organization that I'm humbled and proud to lead.
Absolutely. And we are humble. We are proud to support you and proud of you and all that you're doing. And yes,
thank you.
Yes, Andrea. I'm gonna message you right after this, Andrea. Hold tight. Yes. Again, Melissa, thank you so much for your time, and you're getting so much love, and I'm sure people will they're all having their conversation. People will support anyway. Thank you all for coming. Yes, Jared. I didn't ask anybody any questions. Anybody have any questions? Sometimes people are real quiet, they're real shy, and then sometimes, they have conversation. They, because people come back to the video because the video stays on all the platforms.
Of course, yeah.
And then they come back and they're like having whole conversations. Hi, Davida. Yes.
I love me some Davida. We met at a summer program.
Oh, I love Davida. She's one of my very, very favorite people. Of course, artists. Of course, I love her as an artist, but great woman. Yes, Dylan. Yes. Anyway, thank you all. We will be the big birthday gift for me. Oops.
Real big.
You can ask them, girl, while you're there. You can just go by and ask them. Just tell them to put up a sign. You don't even have to say, just write the numbers.
Oh my gosh, Latanya.
Yes. Thank you. I know. Thank you, Matt. I'll see you all next week. I'll be back next Thursday. Melissa, don't go. Just stay there for me. All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
That is here. I didn't even see you.
Listen.
Oh my God, I missed you. Hi, girl. All right, y'all. Talk soon. Bye.
Stay safe.